now, but I don't think he'd laugh at the time. All right, so I chilled over Thanksgiving weekend and watched a lot of football on television, and as it was with the rest of America, I am so glad I was watching that Iron Bowl, son. That was that game. Even when it isn't that great, it still doesn't disappoint. And let me tell you something. Y'all down on the plains always wearing me out about Gus Malzahn this, and he's weird, and he does strange things. You know what? His little, his weird, quirky mind that only works like his does has won 2 Iron Bowls in the most unusual fashion. But guess what? He got
unusual was the word that Coach Saban used.
Yes.
Post-game.
Yes.
He also used the word unfair.
Yeah.
And now, look, I'm not sitting here saying he didn't say Auburn played well, because Auburn played great. And there were Alabama indisputably had self-imposed wounds, 2 pick sixes, weird penalties, all of those things. Missed field goals, as we certainly know. But I said on social media that evening, watching that game and the physicality involved in that game and the intensity on every play was palpable. That's as good as college football gets. It does not get better than that. I don't care the stage. I don't care. Like, the magnitude of it was massive because Alabama's playoff hopes were on the line. All right. Auburn, Marlon Davidson sat right here on this show and said, We're going to wake him up.
We're going to wake him up.
And look, to his credit, Mac Jones played great.
No,
he had a couple interceptions that went the other way, but overall played really well. They had 550 yards of offense, man, against those guys, against that defense.
Yeah. Well, it felt like, I joked at halftime. I said, this feels like a Big 12 championship game. It was like a video, but this is how this year has gone. But I give Auburn a lot of credit because
they played great.
They played great, and that defensive line, when they needed them, was there. And the reality also is this, and when it comes to the substitution infraction at the end of the game, there are cracks right now. And this stuff about the game is past. All the stuff has started now about the Alabama dynasty being over and whatever else. I don't want to hear any of that, because the reality is that you've lost 2 games, and you've lost 2 games to these incredible football teams, one that probably will play for the national championship. But the little things like the substitution infraction, the little things like we've seen this throughout the year this year, there's a little bit of a quality control issue right now. Well, what I wonder about is that you and I talk about this all the time about no matter how great a coach you are, no matter how great your players are, you keep turning over a coaching staff and turning over a coaching staff and turning over a coaching staff. Something's got to give somewhere. And the reality is that credit to Gus Malzahn, because that was a deke, man. That was smooth at the end of that game. But the reality is that I don't think this Alabama team commits a substitution infraction no matter what the other team does, no matter what the confusion is, just based on what we've seen in the past.
All right, as Mr. Referee,
all
right, I need your insight, because I was really confused. It was obviously well planned by Coach Malzahn.
Sure.
Like, they had that in their bag for that specific moment. Okay? Jalen Waddle runs on the field. He's had the greatest game of his career. One of the greatest games in Iron Bowl history, okay? He's back deep for this punt. Okay? Bama notices late that the punter is at wide receiver and that the quarterback Bo Nix is still in the game. Okay? So they try to run the defense on, punt teams on, because they saw the punter on the field. They try to run the defense on. They're trying to get Jalen Waddle's attention to run him. What is the rule there? Like, the ball was never snapped before the flag was thrown, correct?
So I
don't understand that rule.
Well, and this is why we should call my dad on speakerphone, right? But,
do you know the rule? Obviously, I don't.
It's illegal substitution, and there's this is what I'm talking about, though, which is I don't know that an Alabama team 3 years ago is fooled by this. Like, I think they have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, and they probably have that now, but maybe someone on the sideline wasn't ready to roll that out there. You know what I'm saying? That there's a readiness factor that just didn't exist in this game. And maybe what I saw was, so at the end of the first half, and Saban wasn't necessarily wrong about this, which is rule of thumb is you need 3 seconds to run a play. And there was only 1 second on the clock for the kick.
He was livid, man.
But my point is that I don't know that I've ever seen that sideline be distracted by stuff that happened earlier in the game. They've always been the masters of, okay, that happened, move on. We're going to move on to the next thing. And I felt like there was this lingering frustration that carried over late into the game that maybe added to this sloppiness that we're talking about.
I was really confused as a viewer.
Yeah.
All right, I'm not there.
Right.
I didn't have the
Right.
resources to
Right.
ask at the time.
Right.
I just don't understand that rule. If the ball hasn't been snapped yet, why can't Jalen Waddle get off the field? We have a lot of friends that are refs.
Right.
I need y'all to explain this to me.
Yeah.
Text me, call me, tweet me, whatever, because I don't get it. Now look, we're sitting here breaking all this down. We're probably just not giving Malzahn enough credit.
No, listen.
Because it was a brilliant
It was a brilliant plan. It was a brilliant plan. And it's like kick six. You know, he is such a football nerd. And I mean that lovingly. And I think he would take it that way. He is such a football nerd that he reminds me of, he's a NASCAR fan. He reminds me of these great crew chiefs that we know, which is they spend their entire offseason with the rule book, not reading the rules, but looking for what's not written in the rules, or looking for the deepest, darkest corners of page, whatever, clause, whatever of this rule, and thinking, you know what? At so-and-so racetrack in July, I'm going to use that right there because I know I can. And that's what Gus Malzahn does. That's how you know to have a man back there on kick six. That's how you know to put your punter out there on the field. No matter where he is, if his number's out there, it's going to create confusion. And so I give him a lot of credit for that.
Me too. I was so perplexed. I didn't know what was going on. I could see Bo Nix's reaction.
Yeah.
Bo knew. Bo knew.
Yeah.
Bo knows. Get it. I could see his reaction was more demonstrative.
Right.
And then the flags come out like he knew. And it was a very unorthodox way to end the game.
Yeah.
But congratulations to Auburn. What a tremendous, tremendous win. And, you know, you bring up like NASCAR crew chiefs. It's like Alan Kowicki winning the 1992 Winston Cup Series championship over Bill Elliott.
Smarter than ever.
Letting Bill Elliott win the race.
Yeah, he's smarter than good.
I've led the most laps.
I understand what I have to do to win this event, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. All right, so we have talked about, and you mentioned missed field goals. Something that I know that you and I both want to address was we love the passion of college football fans. And we particularly love the passion of Southeastern Conference college football fans. But the reaction to this missed kick right here, and listen, I feel like we do this every year at some point. I know we did it last year. I feel like we did it earlier this year. Are y'all really going to pick on a kid and send death threats to a kid because he missed a field goal in a football game? I just do not even understand the mentality of that. And if anybody would like to talk to me about that on Twitter, in person, I will do it all day long, and I know you will too, because there is no excuse, there's no reasoning, there's no rationale behind a grown adult picking on a kid for a play that happened that didn't go the way you wanted it to.
Am I allowed to say
a sporting event?
I don't know what our leniency is on language, but it me off.
Yeah.
It angers me because it's weak. It's being a bully.
It's small.
You think anybody in the world hurts worse about missing that damn field goal than that young man who kicked it? No. He takes to social media to apologize when no apology was necessary. He takes to social media to try to offer some sort of answer and some sort of insight about his own remorse for failing at his job. Completely unnecessary. And the fact that that young man felt like he had to do that disgusts me. Obviously, he loves Alabama football. Obviously, he loves his teammates, his coaching staff, his head coach, everybody involved, and I guarantee you he appreciates the Alabama Crimson Tide faithful. Let's make sure that we remember that they are 20-year-old young men who are trotting out there for our entertainment. And so much pressure is involved in that moment. And here's the last thing I'll say about it. That play is the one that many of you will